It's time to discuss the biggest narrative shifts in MMA in regards to specific fighters. We're going to be talking about guys that last year were maybe seen as being over the hill. Maybe he needs a couple of crutches. Maybe he's going to need some assistance getting to the octagon. I feel like he's getting a little bit old. You know what I mean? We were talking about this stuff. We were saying Justin Gaethje needs some assistance. To now, we're talking about the best fucking striker in the game. And we're also going to be talking about the guys that we gave a shitload of hype to. We were talking about them being the next best thing in MMA to now, who the hell is that guy? Like, he ain't even that good. This is the kind of narrative shift that I'm going to be getting at. And I've got a bunch of fighters lined up. And we're going to talk about what the narrative was last year and what the narrative is today. And it's going to be drastic for every single one of them. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Justin Gaethje, all right? Think about what people were saying at the end of last year. This is only, 4 or 5 months after getting subbed in the first round against Charles Oliveira. Think about what you were saying going into the Rafael Fiziev matchup. This guy's a stepping stone. He was a chinny chin chin guy. You know, this guy's washed up. He got sent flying across the octagon by Charles Oliveira. Yeah, he's put up a fight. He was a tough out. But I mean, goodness gracious, how long did he last with Charles? He got subbed in the first. He's not able to take all the same damage that he used to be able to take. He got twisted into a pretzel against Khabib. He had just taken a little bit too much damage. That Justin Gaethje chin, I think it's beyond the point of no return. Homer Simpson, most overrated fighter at 155 pounds. This is what people were saying. Justin Gaethje's an overrated motherfucker. You know? Now what are they saying? Let's see what the narrative is today. Because I think it's changed. We're talking about the best striker in the lightweight division, baby. I went from saying that this dude is extremely overrated and I was tired of hearing his name at the end of last year to being pleasantly surprised with the Fiziev fight. And even leading up to the Fiziev fight, I'm going to be honest, when I rewatched tape on Justin Gaethje and Fiziev, I actually kind of came to the conclusion that Justin Gaethje was a little bit underrated. But a little bit underrated is not even good enough anymore. And I also came to the conclusion that Fiziev was maybe a little bit overrated too. Gaethje was extremely underrated. And not only that, but he had improved massively, all right? Massively, because now we look at Justin Gaethje as the best striker in the lightweight division after knocking out Dustin Poirier with a head kick and beating Rafael Fiziev, who is also a fucking stud on the feet. The dark horse for future champion, dude, I hear people talking about this guy like he could still maybe go out there and knock Islam Makhachev out. If you were to tell someone that Justin Gaethje could maybe go out there and beat Islam Makhachev last, November, a couple months after he got subbed by Charles Oliveira, you would have laughed at my face. You know what I mean? Now you say it and you're like, well, hold on a second. That Justin Gaethje striking, it's improved. He's harder to hit than he's ever been before. The most improved fighter on earth would not be a stretch. You did not think this is what was going to be coming out of people's mouths when talking about Justin Gaethje. You just didn't think it. Beneil Dariush. All right, let's talk about Beneil Dariush. Let's get into the narratives that we were hearing even at the start of this year. All right, or again, last year as well, coming off of that really good win against Mateusz Gamrot. I picked Beneil Dariush to win that fight too. I was actually really happy that I picked Beneil Dariush to win that fight. But either way, he still surprised me by shutting down a grappler like Mateusz Gamrot. Here's the thing though. After that, because we also saw Charles Oliveira get dropped and subbed by Makhachev in the same night, I was thinking that, you know what? Charles is a little bit past his prime. Beneil Dariush, I think this is the guy. I think he's underrated. And not only do I think he's underrated, but it's Makhachev's biggest test. I mean, this guy needs to be taken seriously. He's a wild man Makhachev. He's got the grappling to match him. He's extremely sticky on the ground. He's a stubborn bastard to get the better of on the ground. And on the feet, this guy's got underrated power. I mean, look at how he dropped Mateusz Gamrot. Look at how he knocked out Drakkar Klose. Look at how he knocked out Scott Holtzman. He's like a wild man Makhachev. Nightmare matchup for Charles. Charles is going to get dusted up by this guy. I mean, he's just too good everywhere. And he's the guy to kind of put an end to the Charles Oliveira era. If it already wasn't ended by Makhachev. You know what I mean? This is the guy. Who the fuck is this guy is what we're saying now. How did we even think that he was going to be able to beat Charles? I mean, listen, I understand you get hit by Charles once. You're on Crip Street, you're dazed, the fight's over. We didn't really get to see Beneil Dariush heat up, but it's also because Charles walked him down and made him look so easy. And it wasn't just one shot. Charles nullified this guy on the ground, got taken down by Beneil Dariush, and landed a ton of good shots off of his back, hurt Beneil Dariush while he was on his back, and then got up to his feet, kicked him, smashed him in the face with a couple of good hooks, put him away on the ground with brutal ground and pound too, and just kind of beat Beneil Dariush pillar to post in the first round in every single realm of the fight. He beat him in the grappling. He beat him in the stand-up. He beat him in the ground and pound. He beat him in the transitions. As I said, who the hell is this guy? Beneil Dariush? I almost forgot that he existed at this point. Like, nobody has mentioned Beneil Dariush in title contention. Nobody has ever, not once, have we thought about Beneil Dariush maybe being able to beat a guy like Charles, maybe being a tough matchup, a tough out for Islam Makhachev. It's not even a thing, which is insane. You know what I mean? And again, we're just talking about the narrative shifts. This isn't necessarily all just reality. It's just the narrative. It's crazy at how this can change over the course of one fight. Mid-striking, I overrated this dude's striking. I'm going to be honest. I think I overrated his striking. I was calling him the wild man Makhachev. Very defensively sound, but wild. You know, he's a little bit wild on the feet. Dude, I overrated this guy. He looked slow as a grandma out there. He's got the chinny chin chin. This guy's been put away. We should have fucking thought about that time he got KO'd badly by Edson Barboza and he got put away by Alexander Hernandez. Go figure. You know what I mean? This is the type of stuff we start to remind ourselves of. That he wasn't as tough as we thought. That he wasn't as defensively sound as we thought. That he's a little bit slower than we thought. And he just simply hadn't faced that level of competition. And again, it's like, you know, it's easy to look back on these things, but it's just the narrative has changed. Dude, Beneil Dariush kind of looks like a walk in the park for a bunch of the top 5 guys. Now I say a bunch of the top 5 guys, not a walk in the park for anyone outside of the top 5. It's hard not to view Beneil Dariush as a guy that's not that dangerous after seeing him get done like that. I mean, Charles really did kind of violate this man in the first round. He beat him everywhere. As I said, the stand-up, the grappling, the striking on the ground and pound. Insane, dude. And the same thing can be said about Charles Oliveira, like the narrative shift about him. It's just the opposite of Beneil Dariush. Maybe, you know, we overrated him a little bit. Maybe it's now time that he's taking on the tough matchups and he's going to lose. But it's just that Islam Makhachev's really different than Beneil Dariush. And Charles Oliveira is still that far ahead of everyone else in the division, aside from just Makhachev. So, on to the next one. Kamaru Usman. Listen, he's going to win the title again. I mean, Leon Edwards got a lucky head kick. Leon Edwards is a guy that, you know, he was stumbling all over himself. His coaches gave him the good speech. They hyped him up a little bit. Yeah, he caught lightning in a bottle. He's not going to do it again. You know, Usman's still a monster. We're talking about one loss, one KO loss. He's going to pick up right where he got started. He has the threat of the takedown. He's going to be marching him down. You know, Leon just keeping that belt warm. But the thing is, that was the narrative in 2022, even after Usman had gotten head kicked, until today. Kamaru Usman's washed. Kamaru Usman's got those cobblestone, wobblestone knees, and I just think Colby beats him. I think Shavkat beats him. I think Belal beats him. This is actually real for me, by the way. Colby could beat this man in a trilogy. And I know that's not that crazy to say now, even because Colby and Kamaru's 2 fights were close, even though Kamaru finished him the first time. The second one was kind of close. I honestly feel like I'd lean towards Colby. I feel like Shavkat beats this guy. I feel like Belal, dude, I feel like Belal, because he's young, because he's defensively sound, he's got a funky style, he can match Usman on the wrestling. I honestly feel like it'd just be the passing of the torch. It'd be one of those sad moments where a former dominant champion loses to a guy like that's good, but like, you know, we would never expect it. Usman's just not the same with these wobblestone, cobblestone knees. You get what I'm saying. How the fuck have we gotten here? You know, the most dominant pound for pound welterweight we've ever seen. And now and I know some people are going to be angry that I'm not mentioning GSP. GSP was a long reigning welterweight, not necessarily as dominant as Kamaru. I know Kamaru had a couple of close fights, but you understand what I mean. This dude looked invincible. And now we're talking about these cobblestone, wobblestone knees of Kamaru Usman not being able to hold up. And him, I just can't. Can you see Kamaru bouncing off of a win over any of these guys? Colby, Shavkat, Belal, maybe Belal. I honestly feel like Shavkat works him at this point. I honestly feel like Colby, it's a tough fight again, but I honestly feel like Colby gets the better of him a little bit. And Leon, dude, you don't want to see that matchup again. Leon's just going to shut him down. I don't think Kamaru's washed. I don't think he's washed up. Again, these aren't my narratives necessarily. I'm just talking about the narratives that we're hearing a lot these days. Whereas before, And I picked Leon Edwards to beat Kamaru Usman in this trilogy. I actually did. I originally picked Kamaru Usman. I didn't pick Leon Edwards until a month out of the fight. And then I kind of was, should I maybe go back to my original pick? I'm worried that I'm doubting Usman too much. Leon just keeping the belt warm, you know? And then again, I was like, all right, I think Edwards is going to get it done because I rewatched the fight and I saw Edwards have more success than I'd remembered in the rematch. But I was picking Usman for a while going into the trilogy, and then I switched my pick about a month out, you know what I mean? And again, even now, even though I respected Usman a lot going into that fight, and I still respect him, I just don't view him as the same. He's just not that guy anymore. It's like Beneil Dariush, who the fuck is this guy? I mean, it's not like that. It's not that bad, but you guys get my point. Petr Yan, bro, this guy still hasn't even lost yet. You know, he got robbed against O'Malley. He's still capable of being a champ. These are the kinds of things that we were saying last year, the narratives that were spread around Petr Yan. He had this very, very tight decision loss to Aljamain Sterling. And of course, Aljamain Sterling, I honestly feel like he won that fight clearly, but it was still close. Very close. The first round, the fourth and fifth were Yan. The first round was the toss-up. But then he fights O'Malley, and it's like, bro, why the fuck didn't this guy get his hand raised? And even before O'Malley's fight with Sterling recently, I was like, I feel like it could have gone either way. I've watched this fight like 5 times now. I went back and I rewatched it a bunch of times, and I still remember how strongly I felt about Petr Yan getting jousted, getting fucked over by the judges, getting the shit end of the stick. And I really did feel like he won this fight. And we were all looking at Petr Yan as that guy. He's still the champ. He's still, maybe not the champ, but he's still capable of being champ. He's right up there with Sterling still. He's still better than O'Malley. He's right up there with Sterling. And what's going on with Petr Yan today? Petr Yan, the guy with ice in his veins, the hardest motherfucker in the bantamweight division's history, is now the biggest pity party in MMA. The biggest demon. I'm talking about menace. Petr Yan is now a pity party. People feel bad for him. People don't even want to look in his direction at this point. It's getting bad. You know what I mean? Oh my gosh, this just pains me to even look at this photo. After the Merab fight, he loses to this guy. He loses to that guy. You honestly start second guessing everything in your life because you start thinking about future matchups. There's talks about this guy fighting Song Yadong. I feel like he might even lose that fight. It's a very close fight. And after all these L's, I'm starting to think it's just the world is too cruel to allow this guy to win. You know what I mean? He's a few L's away from being cut. Think about it like that. This is the guy that the Weasel was talking about as the most perfect fighter to ever exist under the sun. And now he's a few L's away from being cut, and he'll never get the belt back. Dude, I'm going to say that confidently. I don't think Petr Yan's ever getting the belt back. I think he's got the skills to be able to make it happen, but unless he drastically changes his output and his style a little bit, it's just not going to happen, and I don't think he's going to drastically change his style that much. And ultimately, dude, when the guys like Merab, when there's someone like Merab out there or O'Malley that made a fight close and O'Malley's now just getting closer to his prime, like Petr Yan, he's still young, but O'Malley's even younger and he's improving a little faster. And Merab is a guy that exists, as I mentioned. It's like he's not getting the belt back. Whereas if we went to last year, he was getting the fucking belt back. You know, this is how we were feeling a little bit. Maybe, Petr, don't count him out. He'll get that 5-rounder with O'Malley next. This dude's like 3 fights away from a fucking title at this point. You know what I mean? So on to the next one. Sean Strickland. Last year, 2022, I would have said, bro, I picked Strickland to beat Pereira, which I did. That was a dumb pick, man. Like, how the fuck could I have picked Strickland? Right? I mean, he's good. Strickland's pretty defensively sound. He's good. But, like, you know, once he takes a step up to fight a Pereira and Adesanya or Whitaker, he'll get smoked. I looked at him as a guy that's a little bit of a sloppy boppy guy on the feet. He's slightly underrated, just slightly. He's got good defense. The offense, it ain't really all there. He's just got a decent pace on him. And then it kind of picked up a little bit. He had this close fight with Cannonier, and I was like, all right, I think it's clear. Strickland, Cannonier, they're the clear 4 and 5 man in that division, or 3 and 4 man in that division. They're better than all these other guys, but he's still a cut below Whitaker, Pereira, and Adesanya. He's got good defense. Then he fought Imavov. And I was like, all right, again, I picked him to beat Imavov too. Strickland's still underrated, but there ain't no fucking way this guy's ever going to be champ. He gets to the belt. We all count him out, at least 99% of us. And now he's the champion, and we have to look at this guy as someone that could have maybe beaten everyone in the division. maybe even Khamzat we're talking about. I mean, like, this is my take on the matter. I honestly feel like I'd pick Strickland to beat Whittaker at this point. I'd pick Strickland to beat Du Plessis at this point. Maybe. Du Plessis would have to knock him out, but if it goes to 5 rounds, I'm not picking against Strickland in a Du Plessis matchup. That's all I'm saying. Khamzat Chimaev is a guy, maybe. Strickland, what if he stuffs the takedowns? You know what I mean? These are the kinds of conversations we're having. Before the Adesanya fight, you're confidently picking Whittaker. You're confidently picking Du Plessis after what we saw him do to Whittaker as well, and you're confidently picking Khamzat. Dude, we have to start talking about this guy maybe being the best striker at middleweight, which is just insane. He easily outstruck Adesanya and made Izzy swing and miss more than Izzy's ever swung and missed. The best defense in MMA. It could be the best defensive striking in MMA. Like, this dude almost never gets hit. The Philly shell. Again, this dude is an absolutely, he's a defensive juggernaut. And he beats Pereira in a rematch. Like, people have said this before as well, like recently, after the Adesanya win. The narrative shift on Sean Strickland is unreal. Again, I wouldn't have even considered picking him to beat Whittaker, picking him to beat Du Plessis. After the amazing performance he just had against Izzy, how could I not? How could I not even lean towards him? He hardly ever gets hit. It's just that, this is the thing about Strickland. He doesn't have this crazy amount of power. He doesn't have a high impact when he hits guys other than dropping Izzy. We rarely ever see Sean Strickland hurting anyone. I know he finished Abus Magomedov. That was a big part of that was the adrenaline dump that Abus had in the second round of his biggest ever appearance. It was only his second ever UFC fight, fighting in a main event against a guy like Sean Strickland who has more experience than anyone Abus Magomedov will ever fight ever. I felt like he had an adrenaline dump. But my point is, the reason why people don't think of Sean Strickland as that amazing sometimes is because outside of the defense, he doesn't wow us in the offense. He just doesn't. It's really his defense, which is everything at this point, and the pace as well. The pace and just knowing how to fight, the instincts of slipping punches. When I say the defense, he's such a good fighter in regard to the fact that he always spars, and he's more used to getting out of the way of punches and seeing punches coming than basically anyone else because he's sparring 24/7. But his offense is it's just not that special. He's got a good jab, he's got a good two, and he's got a good teep. But he's not knocking anyone's head back, you know what I mean? Of course he did it against Izzy, but this is kind of why I feel like he's still a little bit underrated. We're getting into another subject altogether. This is the biggest narrative shift in MMA overall. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. What is your favorite, or in your opinion, the biggest narrative shift in MMA this year? Let me know in the comments. Until next time.